Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Sam Jones, sector lead for housing at Ground Control, and my job is as well as many things is to act as a custodian to the sector, exploring subject matters that are important and how better as a sector we can work together. Today I've got Liam with me from the Northern Housing Consortium. Liam's going to be talking us through a really important subject matter that we can relate to, and that's around engagement. Engagement being a really key factor in the world of sustainability, with it being such a big and broad agenda. So Liam, welcome to the conversation. A little bit of an introduction from yourself.
Yep, thanks, Sam, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this discussion. So my name's Liam. I'm the Member Engagement Manager at the Northern Housing Consortium, and for the last year and a bit, I've been looking after the Social Housing Tenants Climate Jury from the NHC side of things, and I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more about that and what that means for sustainability and engagement.
Great, thanks, Liam. And so I think if we can kick things off by looking at that engagement piece, and I think some of the conversations we've had is that and certainly with an organisation like yourself, it falls into two really distinct but aligned categories. And one is an engagement with the consortium members. And the sector represented, but also some great work that you've been doing around engagement with the customers, the residents, the end users. So if it's okay, I'd like to start off by looking at for what does engagement mean for yourselves as an organisation and the importance of engagement.
Yeah, no, definitely. So engagement, I mean, taking the members part first, and then we'll get onto that really vital part of engaging with our customers and tenants. Engagement's critical to what we do at the Northern Housing Consortium because we represent our members in the housing sector, whether that's obviously housing associations, local authorities, or Almos, and we really try through our engagement work to create a sort of a community of learning where good practice across a whole range of topics has been is spread across the region, and we're making sure people are really kind of plugged into what's going well and kind of pooling risk and reward, I suppose, in a way. Climate change, sustainability, net zero has been a large part of our work for a couple of years now through Our North Net Zero, which was a series of sort of webinars focusing on retrofit and tackling climate change in homes and neighbourhoods, shall I say. That kind of really highlighted the importance of engagement at a community level with tenants and communities. So that kind of inspired the jury work, which kind of put tenants first and foremost into the discussion on tackling climate change in homes through retrofit, but at the neighbourhood level as well. And we're carrying on that work now as well, thinking about how we move the conversation on and kind of build on that work, kind of taking into themes of sort of the cost of living crisis at the moment, and what does sustainability mean to people in their own sort of lives. The reason why we started the jury to kind of influence our work on retrofit was because I kind of at the end of the day that these were people's homes we're talking about, and that sort of retrofit and building and sustainability can be a disruptive experience. We're talking about bringing tradespeople into people's homes, but we're also talking about changing habits as well, and kind of embracing new things across our sort of streets. And long-term success is really kind of critical to that. If people don't kind of buy into what we're trying to do here, then you're kind of not achieving net zero. You're not tackling climate change. So we really kind of wanted to use our engagement to kind of build understanding, to build buy-in, and to also gather input as well. And that kind of brings that sort of fresh perspective along. The people that are in these homes and kind of live in their neighborhoods, they know what's best, and they can offer insight that from an officer level or sort of one removed ourselves at the Northern Housing Consortium simply wouldn't maybe even think about. And overall that kind of builds a sort of motivation and sort of bringing shared solutions to the table, and then kind of builds trust as well.
Absolutely, and there's some things I'd like to pick up on there. You talk about engaging with the tenants, the customers, to a degree where they're both that their spaces are being interrupted, and there are things that are interrupting their lives, and therefore buy-in is critical to help on that agenda. But a much broader awareness piece, and we can relate to that. Ground Control, our proposition, our service offering, but essentially what we deliver to the market is helping our customers navigate this particular agenda in the open space, in green infrastructure, maintaining and generating and redeveloping a lot of open space and built assets. And a big part of our agenda is nature gain and sustainability around biodiversity gain and environmental improvement. Whilst it's not as high up on the agenda as retrofit and fire safety and all the other things that are being challenged in the market at the moment, it is actually something that's much more tangible to a lot of
Hmm.
residents and customers, because I suppose, especially post COVID, people appreciate the value of green space, and actually dovetailing that into an awareness piece around sustainability and using that as a lead generation to
Hmm.
really push through the importance of sustainability, we found great success. And what that has done is then, whilst it's not as high on the agenda as retrofit, it's actually been a leader into that conversation and brought communities along on that sustainability journey. The longevity piece is absolutely something that we need the reliance on engaging with residents on, because we make change to an estate, we enhance it, we improve it for nature gain, but it needs legacy, and it's not going to have legacy if people don't appreciate the value of it and how to be stewards for that space. So we can really relate to that and understand the importance of that even in our context of environmental management.
Yeah, no, I think, sorry, that I just to agree completely. That's a critical point, and it's something we found through our work on the jury as well. So just to kind of very quickly explain for the guys that'll be watching, with the jury, we brought together 30 social housing tenants from across the north to kind of learn about climate change and how you tackle it at a sort of a neighbourhood level. The Northern Housing Consortium has a sort of a long-standing interest in investing in existing homes and neighbourhoods, so we really made retrofit central to that. But we wanted to kind of talk about neighbourhood impact as well. And the jury, the tenants that kind of took part in that process, really kind of grabbed a hold of those neighbourhood level issues, and they kind of saw that yes, retrofit was important, but that to sort of the lived experience is just one small part of the change they're seeing across society. So electric vehicles got talked about a lot, but also green spaces and making the best use of green spaces, and sort of when they think about their landlords, ground maintenance isn't about making sure the grass gets cut anymore. It's about really kind of creating and building in sustainability. So these are spaces that tenants can use and kind of make their areas more environmentally friendly, but more sociable places as well.
Great, and yeah, we can contest to that. I want to dive into some of the specifics you've been talking about, and the climate jury
Yeah.
being the main one. Can you outline to me, whilst you've talked very eloquently about the benefits, can you outline to me, for everyone's benefit really, what some of the main challenges have been around in that level of engagement at that scale?
Hmm. Yes, definitely. So I think when it comes down to engagement, and our members in the Northern Housing Consortium and the social housing sector at large will kind of will obviously sort of understand and appreciate what I'm saying here. When it comes to engagement, the main challenge is making sure that you're engaging as far as and as wide as possible. And that's something with the jury that we wanted to make sure that we kind of use the enthusiasm of the tenants that kind of traditionally engage through sort of the usual scrutiny structures, engage with their landlords. Their input and experience was vital, but when you're talking about something like climate change and sustainability, it can't just be a sort of it doesn't impact a small group of people, this impacts everyone. So how do you really set yourself and meet the challenge of trying to engage with a group of people where everyone could look at that group and kind of see someone like themselves? And that's something that we try to do with the jury, and was a really important bit of work. So that meant a lot of investment in trying to reach people, and kind of the scale of the invites that we sent out in the application process, where we kind of thought long and hard about how we use the data to kind of create a representative and inclusive group. But once we had that group together, keeping people involved and making sure that everyone that wanted to take part could take part was really important to us. And I think that that's why the jury model was something that we were kind of keen to follow, in those principles of engagement, in terms of making sure people were sort of well compensated for their views. So everyone that took part received vouchers and different sort of remuneration, shall we say, because it was not just about gathering views. This was just valuing those views as well. Support to people in terms of expenses for childcare and making sure that they could focus on the project, and also IT support as well. This took place during lockdown, happened online, and making sure that people had access to sort of IT and the correct equipment as well was really important as well. I mean, obviously everyone has busy lives. People that took part had obviously busy and sort of difficult and complex lives as well. Does not mean that their views are sort of any less sort of valued or sought after. It was really important, and I think that was a kind of really big challenge when it comes to engagement. We had some solutions for it, certainly not the silver bullet, but that is the sort of the mountain to climb, I suppose, in terms of engagement.
And that's some useful insights. As many viewers would know, Ground Control have been working hard along with 7 other housing associations to form the Green Spaces Advisory Board, and we're now well into and shortly launching the map for our framework that will bring better green space stewardship to the housing sector. Yeah. One of those modules, and one of the key ones, there's been a lot of discussion so far, is how do we engage the end user, not just in the creation of the framework, but actually as a module of the framework that can influence others on how they engage. Because I think you're right, there is no silver bullet, but what I'm hearing is actually valuing the input and actually finding the right demographic to engage with of multiple people from multiple geographies, multiple ages, multiple backgrounds will generate an outcome that will give us useful information, because essentially that's what stipulates what it is we decide or choose to do as service providers or as housing providers on the ground thereafter. So some really useful inputs. I'll come away from the challenges and focus now, if we can, on the benefits, the positives, because there is no doubt multiple benefits, and it's ultimately why we do it. But I'll challenge you to 3, if you can, to give me three positive outcomes from your experiences, specifically around the climate jury, that that others would benefit from your workings and what you've done.
Yeah, no, definitely. So in terms of thinking, keeping it down to 3, I think the first thing to say was what the jury came out with was, well, we challenged our jury members and the tenants that formed part of the jury to give us their recommendations and their views as tenants as to how we answer the question, how can social landlords, tenants and others work together to tackle climate change in our homes and neighbourhoods. And what we've came out with is a very detailed report and a detailed set of recommendations that really kind of do give us those perspectives in many ways that we never really kind of envisaged we'd get sort of that kind of information out in really good map of the retrofit process from the tenant's perspective, and where they see the challenges and those sort of pressure points where they really need to know information and how to communicate more clearly, for example, and how to kind of keep people on board, and how do you make the sort of the retrofit process as much as possible a collaborative effort between landlord, tenants and the tradespeople involved with that, and obviously those thoughts on the wider neighborhood as well. So it kind of really has sort of switched the script, I suppose, on how you engage in terms of landlords going out to engage with tenants. The tenants have come to the landlords now with the social housing jury and their recommendations, and the sort of the ball is now in the court of landlords to work with us in the jury and kind of looking at what implementation looks like. The jury model, I think, has generated engagement in ways that other sort of methodologies hasn't. This wasn't just about kind of getting information and from people and then leaving those people alone. We've kind of created climate champions. There's certain people that took part in the jury that I know are kind of very much embedded with their landlord, working as sort of climate champions and spreading the message on what that means for their home, but kind of bringing everyone together to think about how they build in sustainable green spaces into their sort of communities rather. And then I think as well, we've kind of contributed quite a lot to this discussion on what communication looks like and what good communication looks like when it comes to net zero, and thinking about what people need to know. And kind of with our tenants and our jury, we've created a baseline of understanding, a baseline of knowledge out in amongst that small group. We've kind of started the ball rolling now on how we get that baseline knowledge and understanding, and kind of getting people ready for what these changes that we've discussed today mean for them in their lives. Again, all in the aim of sort of, as I said before, generating buy-in, understanding and gathering input as well, making this a collaborative process.
Great. So playing that back, a map. People need to a
Hmm.
map is useful. A framework, a map for engagement is incredibly useful, and something that you've spent a lot of
Hmm.
effort, time, and money, no doubt, implementing. It's having a mechanism of the jury to give you that, enable
Hmm.
that feedback, that engagement, which then stems to climate champions, which is fantastic because that's a force multiplier into the landlord environment. And then having the right comms, the right structure of comms, so that it is applicable for people to be able to communicate these subject matters, and have that to rally the troops around finding out what information needs to be had. So really useful outputs, and ones that certainly within GSAB we hope to replicate when we visit that module in our roadmap over
Hmm.
the next 2-3 months. So Liam, that's some really useful insights, and it sounds like there's been some fantastic work going on at NHG, and continues to be going on there. Certainly with the 140 members of your consortium, no doubt you're in demand for carrying on such good work. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Yes, no, great. Cheers, Sam. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks, Liam.